All right, everybody, welcome back to the Internet World Order podcast. My name is Austin Cook, and today is our second episode ever.
Yes, and we're going to be covering pro wrestling because we realized if we have a wrestling reference for our name, we got to cover pro wrestling pretty quickly. Otherwise, it's just weird.
It would be super weird without it. Like, full disclosure, I would not feel comfortable with that. But the good thing is that we both love pro wrestling, and guess what? We have a pay per view coming up this weekend. What pay per view is it?
It is the Money in the Bank pay per view, which kind of like the Royal Rumble, it sets itself up to be either really good or really bad. So it means it'll be interesting no matter what.
I'm super excited. It's probably one of my favorite like pay-per-views of the year. I know they're trying to make it like a big four now, which if people who aren't familiar with pro wrestling and you're somehow listening to this podcast because you're family or because you like don't want to hurt my feelings by like not listening to it,
We'll
it's
take pity views. It's fine.
we will take pity views. We are not above that. But the big four pay-per-views like are in relation to WWE. It's usually the Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, Survivor Series, and SummerSlam. So they're kind of trying to add Money in the Bank as like one of the unofficial big pay-per-views because obviously it would be like the big five. And they have a ladder match every week for the Money in the Bank contract. Not every week. I'm sorry. Don't ignore that. Every
It's all good.
every match they have for the Money in the Bank briefcase, the winner of that match gets to have a guaranteed WWE title match, which is super interesting. And I think it was Chris Jericho's idea, right?
Yes, he has always famously said that it was his idea and he proceeds to never win the match.
Yeah, that it sounds like Chris Jericho's career. I mean, he,
Oh
he got to main event WrestleMania though, so like people can't talk smack.
no, his resume is like he's literally done it all at this point. So he's got nothing. He has no complaints as fans. There's nothing for us to really be upset with. So it's all good.
Yeah,
His love
he
child lives on and became a pay per view. So that's a pretty big deal.
well, yeah, he's been so like hugely influential, especially for like smaller guys. Like not like Chris Jericho's like a small dude, but if you look at like him compared to like Hulk Hogan or Kevin Nash or all these dudes that are like 6'5" plus, he's
Yes.
small because it's like, oh,
Oh
you're
yeah.
5'11", 6 foot, like you're such a tiny dude.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that's kind of funny. Like you
Of
put that
course.
in perspective of like what we're talking about. But either way, the pay-per-view is coming up this weekend. I'm super, super stoked. I am curious to see what they do with it because, as many of you may know, we are in the middle of a very international event, and it has caused WWE to do things very differently. They have not had fans at any of their shows, and they've been unable to have live events or tour, and they've lost a lot of their talent who are worried about their health, let's say. I'm not going to name the reasoning behind it because I don't want us to get demonetized before we even get monetized. So
That's fair.
yeah,
We don't want to be on the blacklist unless there's an actual good reason to be.
precisely. But today we wanted to talk about who we think is going to win a lot of the matches because they have several matches. They have a men's Money in the Bank ladder match. They have a women's Money in the Bank ladder match. They've got a couple title matches, and I'm really looking forward to it. But Caleb and I today are going to go over what we think are going to be the results and how.
Yes. So as we saw it, we think it'd be better to do like predictions since we're starting out because but until we get like a following to where people actually want to hear what our thoughts is after it happens. So we're like, we'll just make predictions and see how accurate we are. Uh, the thing I'm looking forward to, because for those that may not, because obviously whoever's listening, like your fandom with WWE may be at various points, but what makes this year's very unique uh, is the fact that they're doing two things. One, they're hosting the big Money in the Bank match. The whole pay per view is at the corporate headquarters in Connecticut, and the Money in the Bank match itself, both the men and women's are going to happen at the same time, and they're calling it climbing the corporate ladder because they're going to start at the first floor of the building and have to work their way up to the roof, get to the ring, then climb the ladder and get the suitcase or briefcase. And so that much stuff at once is such a myriad of craziness. Like, and after what they've done with the Boneyard match and Firefly Funhouse match at WrestleMania, I now know literally anything is possible, and I love it.
I'm so excited for this because normally, like, for people who aren't super familiar, like, it's just like a ladder match and there's the briefcase above the ring, and it's exciting and it's different from a lot of other matches, but it's also like not absolutely like intense and just like balls to the wall, you know. It's very it's theatrical without being ridiculous. And I'm so
Yeah.
excited for this because it's going to be ridiculous.
Yes. And look, there's the purists out there that think, oh, it has to be like pure sport of like ground and pound of like just two guys basically put on as much athleticism, easy for me to say, as humanly possible, which, yes, those matches are great. But sometimes you need the ridiculousness. And this pay per view is poised to give plenty of it. And just like you, I am looking forward to it.
I know one thing I admire too is that they're trying to be more creative because they could have just very easily gone like, yeah, we'll just have a ladder match in the middle of the performance center and, you know, keep things small, keep them contained. But I really like this. I'm hoping that they don't like no one gets hurt trying to do this because I'm worried that they're going to be like, oh, we got to throw someone off a building now and like fake it. It's
Oh,
super ridiculous.
oh, we don't. That's true. Yeah, we don't need like a. It looks like someone gets thrown off, and you very clearly can tell. I mean, unless they go full campy, like The Room, or like it's suddenly you can tell it's a dummy falling off the building.
Yeah, you can have Daniel Bryan like hit a flying headbutt off the
Yeah,
top building.
and it just very clearly with a really bad cut, you can tell it's now a crash test dummy that looks nothing like him. Like
That'd
if they go
almost be
ridiculous like that, I'll be on board.
I kind of would, but it would take me out because it's like the very obvious. You're just like, oh yikes!
Oh, I know. That's one of those like that's why probably not be the best idea, just because it's very easy to lose the well the viewership. I was gonna say audience, but it's very easy to lose the viewers when you do that.
Right, it just becomes ridiculous. But I'm really excited for this. I mean, let's start talking about it. I believe that the first match is going to be the men's Money in the Bank ladder match, and I'm really curious. Who do you think is going to win?
Well, we've talked about this I linked off before we started recording, and I know you said Aleister Black, and honestly, I believe that because I remember the word going back into the Rumble that the two guys they were kind of torn between on winning the Royal Rumble was Drew McIntyre and Aleister Black.
Mm-hmm.
So since Drew won the Rumble, I could very easily see Aleister winning Money in the Bank, and you could just create a money uh, rivalry between those two of just two big guys just wailing on each other to where you can have like that moment from the Godzilla movie where you just see people in the background going, let them fight.
I'd love that. I mean, I know that they're super, super like over the moon about Aleister Black because he's one of the top guys and like he was undefeated, I think, in singles competition in NXT for over a
A
year.
very long time.
Like well over a
Yeah.
year at least until he lost to Ciampa, which I mean that makes sense, but like they protect him a lot more than people realize. Like people kind of complain sometimes about like people being a little overprotected, but like everyone kind of forgets that he like has lost maybe like 2 matches. Like
Oh
total.
yeah. Like people are getting mad. Like he's been off TV for so long. It's like, yeah, because they're trying to make sure he stays special.
Right, and like he already is very special, but I guess it can get a little
If you see it
oversaturated.
weekly, yeah, anything you see weekly, you kind of just it becomes normal. I don't know how else to put it.
Right, right. I when I'm looking at this, I really think that he's kind of like the top choice. I think they'll pick Aleister Black, but it's also a
Yeah.
big like I think. There's also the possibility that they give it to either AJ or Baron, which I would
Yeah.
not be surprised by.
Yeah. I mean, for those, like I said, since we don't know obviously what your level of fandom is when you're listening in, uh, the Money in the Bank, typically the way it works is like if a good guy wins it, they act very differently between how a bad guy wins it, obviously, because it kind of morphed into where with the briefcase, you make sure you always cash in whenever whichever champ you decide to go after is at their most vulnerable. They just went through a match where they got beaten down and destroyed, and that's when you come in because you're fresh, do a finisher, you win. That's a very heelish villain thing to do. So I agree with you that, especially because there is that built-in storyline with Baron, that he had it before and he failed to cash in.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be like a way to, especially now that, I mean, I know the internet has a love-hate with Baron, but I think he's absolutely rocked the King gimmick.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just think how much more trash talk he'll have if he gets the briefcase and successfully cashes in.
Well, I think that they could do it with him. Like, there's always the possibility, but I really think that he's like an absolute wild card. Like, I think AJ makes sense because just
It's
imagine
AJ
the
Styles.
matches that he would have with Drew McIntyre too. Like, they're both at that point in their career where like, well, AJ's always been amazing, but like Drew McIntyre's the best that he's ever been.
Oh yeah,
And
and just the size difference too. Like that naturally in wrestling that plays off of each other.
right, and not only that, but AJ does a really, really good job wrestling bigger guys. Like, I remember his match with Brock Lesnar at Survivor Series. It was
It
just
was so good.
unbelievable. Yeah.
Yeah, he took someone that a lot of people thought, because at this point people think Lesnar just phones in matches, and it's like, no, he can still put on a really good match if he's with the right person, and AJ proved it.
Yeah, no, AJ's always been really, and well, him and Daniel Bryan too.
Exactly. Well, that's why,
And
like,
Rey
that's my
Mysterio.
oh well, Ray's just there to have a really cool, like, he's gonna do some crazy, like, I mean, it's kind of been nicknamed, especially Money in the Bank, because it's where Shelton Benjamin really became a big name for those that remember. So I guarantee Ray's there to have the Shelton Benjamin spots.
Yo, absolutely. Like, he's kind of at that point in his career where he doesn't really like, the impression that I've gotten is like he's not trying super super hard to be WWE champion. It's more of like he's trying to have really really great matches with everybody on the roster and be the amazing Rey Mysterio that we've known for so long.
And I
And
love
that's
every
great.
second of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he's good. Like, I could still see him winning a world title. I would be fine with that. But I
Oh
think
yeah.
he's just actively just trying to be Rey Mysterio, and I'd like to see his son Dominic wrestle too. That'd be cool.
Exactly. I think he's at the point that, like you're saying, he's just there to put on matches and make the young guys look really good, because it's kind of like he's definitely got that. Well, him and Daniel Bryan both, honestly, kind of gotten that role that like Shawn Michaels had in his last few years,
Hmm.
where he's just there to put on good matches with younger guys and be like, oh, if it's not a younger guy, let's say it's someone like, for instance, AJ, who's not a younger guy, but be like, hey, just in case you're forgetting how good this guy is, I will prove to you how good this guy is.
I don't think anyone's forgotten because AJ is one of the most popular superstars in the world
Well,
still.
yeah, I know. I'm just looking at the roster that's in, or so like the roster is in this current match. But like Ray and Daniel are at the point of their careers, like they're just there to make
Hmm.
people look good, because
Yeah, and Daniel will
they could lose
always.
for the next 5 years and they're still going to be over.
Yeah, Daniel Bryan will always make people look good too. I can't think of a match where he was just like. I can't think of a bad match he's had in recent times. Like, he had great matches. Like, people are kind of unfair to him, but like I've seen great matches with him and Sheamus over the last couple years too.
Oh well, that's because at the time Sheamus was the popular guy to hate online because Roman hadn't happened yet. So
Right, right.
uh
Well, he
yeah,
kind of had. He kind of had. He was at that time. It was like 2015, I think, and like after that, like,
yeah.
well, obviously, after Daniel Bryan retired and then he came back. I
Hmm.
remember like he like was. I think he wrestled Sheamus once or twice, but even before that, he was great.
Oh
And
yeah, no, yeah, I agree.
yeah, but I still hope, like, with all things considered, like, I would say I think Aleister Black's gonna win it.
Yeah,
However, I think that AJ Styles is a very very close second for me. I wouldn't be
I
surprised.
agree. Now the one thing I'm looking forward to the most, because obviously he's not going to win, but I'm just looking forward to what on earth is he going to do, and that's Otis.
Oh, it's gonna be amazing.
Exactly. I mean, we know he's not going to win, but I mean, this is going to be his big, like, because he's with, let's see, one, two, three, with five absolute pros
Hmm.
that can make him look like $1 million.
Right.
So I'm just looking forward to whatever crazy stuff, because they're gonna be like, here's this big dude, but like not the same kind of big guy like Alistair or Baron. So let's do some unique stuff that only we could do with him.
Exactly. And I think that, like, because when I first heard that, like, he was gonna be in it, like, and I saw it, I was like, That's an interesting choice. Like that's
Yeah, it kind of
really
reminds me of
like
back in the day with um,
go on.
uh what they would do like sometimes when they would throw like Kane in into a Money in the Bank. Like he's just a big power guy that's meant to be there.
Right. I mean, but Kane's tall though. Like you can see him climbing a ladder. Like Otis is literally built like a dump truck. He's
Oh
just so
yeah.
different, and oh yeah, he's so excited. Like just like every time he runs out there, I'm like, dude, this something different's gonna happen, and I'm really excited for that. And I'm looking forward to seeing it, but I'm still pretty set on Alistair, but also like potentially AJ. What do you think? Final pick.
No, I'm with you. That since like I was saying, since they were torn between Drew and Alistair to win the Rumble, it just kind of seems like the natural thing of, well, then just make Alistair win Money in the Bank since Drew won the Rumble. So that way you get both guys that Vince clearly likes in the big programs.
Yeah, he could hold it for a really long time too.
Exactly. Like, and depending on how, and we'll get to this match later, depending on how Braun and Bray goes, we could get my ultimate dream of having the most metal match of all time between Aleister Black and The Fiend.
It would be amazing.
Well,
Be like the black metal showdown of the wrestling world.
I
They
know
could
it'd
have
be,
on mainstream like TV.
yeah, the most you can do with it without it being like, yeah, like I said, when you have to deal with all the FCC guidelines. So as metal as not quite Metalocalypse, but you know, it's not gonna be, it'll still be great.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. But I think we should talk about the women's Money in the Bank ladder match. I know exactly
Especially
who I
since it'll
think.
be happening at the same time.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's so weird.
I know, and it's either gonna be great or terrible, and I'm here for either.
What if it's just like spread out through the entire show?
If they're climbing I'm sure, because I mean, I've seen pictures of the corporate building. It's gigantic, so
Hmm.
that might be how they're doing it.
They all just take elevators.
I mean, Daniel Bryan brought up that point on his SmackDown promo. Like, he's like, "Is there a rule saying I can't just take an elevator all the way to the top?"
I don't think there is, and I'd like to see.
He goes, "And there's rumors that Vince McMahon has dinosaur bones in his office. Could we go in and find out?"
I'd love to find it. I don't know. I'm so excited for that, but I'm just the more I look at the lineup of this, the more I just kind of like I feel like I know who's going to win
That happens sometimes, and
straight away.
yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Sometimes, the way they push certain wrestlers or stories, they make it very clear who's going to win, and there's pros and cons to that. So I'm not going to say it's good or bad.
Right, right.
But since we've talked at the men at length, get to the women. Uh, and I just realized we didn't name off the men that were in the match. So for the women, it's Carmella, Shayna, Nia Jax, Asuka, Dana Brooke, and Lacey Evans.
All right. Now let's
I
say our picks on 3. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3.
2,
Shayna
3.
Baszler.
Yeah, yes, yes. I want to say Asuka because I love her, but that's another story.
Right. I would say that there's like the chance of it, but she kind of feels like the AJ where it's like it's possible.
Oh yeah, well they clearly love her because they put her in everything.
They had her on commentary.
Exactly. I mean, you could tell like they're like if she could somehow clone herself to where she could be on Raw, SmackDown, NXT, 205 Live, they would do it.
I
They
know.
love her.
They do. I mean, dude, what if it's a wild card choice and like Lacey Evans or Dana wins it? That would be interesting.
Lacey, I could see it just because it would be like and I hate that I'm about to quote this guy, but it's a swerve, bro.
It's a swerve, bro.
Yeah. Yep. If you know who that is, trust me, you cringed with me.
A little bit.
Yeah, thank you. But Lacey, I could see being the dark horse just because I know obviously she's still getting things together, but and we've talked about this off, I guess like off air, but like Bobby Lashley, since she is a former Marine and all that, she has that scary factor of like she could legitimately beat you up.
I know. That's like why I'm okay with her having like a punch as her finishing move.
Exactly. It's like when Big Show had his punch. It's like makes sense.
I know, but like Big Show's like, and no offense to the Big Show, I love Big Show, but like it kind of reminded me of like in the Jungle Book when the bear would just like give Mowgli like an "oh, you're all right, kid" on the chin. Like that's kind of what it would remind me of
That's
sometimes.
fair.
Like,
No,
and
I
that's
okay.
nothing against him because he's being a safe wrestler. But like I would notice it, and I'm just like, oh,
Well, okay, yeah. To be fair, yeah, that's when you're his size, he has to hold back or he's gonna kill somebody.
right, like.
So, I mean, not even Brock Lesnar with all his neck muscle could take a punch from Big Show at full strength.
Yeah, but it's also Brock Lesnar we're talking about, and he's literally like a monsoon with a Jimmy John sponsor.
I love that he just yeah. Sorry, I know we're rabbit trailing, but I love he's always kept that on his trunks no matter where he goes.
Everywhere. I
But
respect that.
yeah, but
Back to the women.
yes, but well, with Lacey though, like obviously with her not being a 7 foot tall monster,
Hmm.
her just punching it looks believable, and of course, like you said, with her being a former Marine, it works as a finisher.
Hmm.
Uh, Dana, I don't see winning it. I mean, I think it's cool they're giving her more screen time
I love
and
that.
giving her
Yeah.
stuff to do. Uh, let's see, Carmella. We've talked about this off air, but like she had her, you could say like not 15 minutes of fame that makes it sound like they have nothing for her,
Hmm.
but since
She's
she is
talented too.
yeah, she is. She very much has a role that she fills, and she does a great job of it.
Right.
Um, but since she's already a former winner, they're not going to have a repeat. Well, and technically repeat winner, but that's on a technicality. Uh, so since she's technically won it twice, they're not going to make a 3-time champion that quickly or a 3-time winner before giving it to somebody else for the first time.
Yeah, that would be weird. I don't know if I'd like that.
Yeah, it's like that. You don't set the precedent yet. Like it was a while before Edge won it again.
Yeah, that's true. It would just be too soon. Yeah. I'm just gonna
Exactly.
say Shayna, and like I'm curious to see what they do with Nia, like because this is I don't think she's ever been in a ladder match before, right?
Yeah, I don't think she's done anything. I know she's had some. Did she do a hardcore match in NXT?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, because I know her and Asuka had a match where Asuka knocked her, or not knocked her out, but like made her go to sleep essentially because she wouldn't let go of her sleeper.
Yeah, no, that was a good match, but it was God, I think that was when Asuka was still undefeated. Wow.
Yeah, well, yeah, she never. If it's NXT, then she's undefeated because she left NXT undefeated.
Right, right. Oh yeah, well yeah, because she like injured her collarbone, I think, right? Like she broke her collarbone.
I think. Yeah, because she literally had to give up the title. And they totally rolled with it of like she will now go down as the only female wrestler to never lose in NXT. I'm like, that's an awesome title to give her.
Yeah, I love that. It's perfect for her, and especially like the character that she brings to the table too, because she is scary.
Yeah, especially since she has fully embraced the green mist. I think I've not seen a wrestler use the green mist this well since Tajiri.
I know, and I liked the way she used it in her match with Becky Lynch too. That was actually like, I was a little nervous about that because I was like, oh gosh, they're gonna use green mist and it's gonna be cheap. And
Hmm.
then I like saw the way that she would use it throughout the matches, and I was like, this is actually really cool.
Oh yeah, and then when Becky finally beat her with that kick to the gut and she just fell backwards, like blowing the mist into the air, that was a
Mhm.
beautiful shot.
Yeah, that was perfect timing.
Yeah, dude, and apparently I saw some of the pictures floating around. A photographer caught it,
Hmm.
and it looks gorgeous.
That was at Royal Rumble, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I was there for that. What am I saying?
Look,
Like asking.
there's so much wrestling, it can all blur, so I don't blame you.
I know. I'm excited to see it. I'm looking forward to the spots on it, but I think we should move on to our next
Sure.
match.
Well, before that, just one more thing. Do you
Hmm.
think because obviously Naya is in there to be like the power person,
Hmm.
because obviously she's not going to be doing fancy flip stuff. But do you think they're going to do something crazy where like I don't know, maybe like Dana and Lacey like double suplex her off a ladder or something?
Maybe not off a ladder, but they might like superplex her off the rope or something like because they're both like because Dana Brooke has a background in bodybuilding, I think.
Yes,
Yeah,
and
and
she's
she's
actually won some
super strong.
competitions.
Yeah, she's
Yeah,
like a gymnast, and she's if there's anyone that I could see doing it, it would probably be Lacey and Dana. Not to take
yeah.
away from the other women, but like they're the ones that I think are like the ones most capable of doing it. And like I think they trust Lacey a lot more now too. She's kind of proven herself to be capable.
Yeah, and there's been a couple of rough matches she had the last few months, and she bounced back from them. Which
Yeah. Well, I mean,
what I've heard
she's
from
pretty
other
new.
podcasts is like, you know, exactly. No, that's why I don't hold it against her. But they said sometimes the higher ups, they're like, they want to see how they react when they have a bad match. Do they learn from it, or do they just get all like upset?
Right.
And she took it in stride.
Yeah, she probably has a lot of discipline too, from what it seems like. It just seems like she's capable of just like showing resilience, which they
Yeah,
probably respect a lot. So I'm glad that they're still using her again, and I'm looking forward to what's going to happen. But again, my pick, Shayna Baszler. I think that's a
my
pretty
pick too.
straightforward one.
It's hard. I mean, like I said, the Homer in me wants to pick Asuka because I believe she deserves to hold all titles, men and women's.
Hmm.
But Shayna's the obvious one just because of the built-in storyline that would come in with that. She could be like it almost you'd almost like it's like play the Jaws music, like
Yeah,
her stalking Becky.
yeah. Oh, that
Like,
would be. I'm really excited for that because Shayna's terrifying in the best way. She's so
oh
good at
yeah,
being
it's one of those things
intense.
of like I love to be scared of you. And outside of wrestling, that sounds so weird.
Right. Like in wrestling terms, she's such a good, like, I don't want to say villain, but she's just so good at being like absolutely
Well,
like believably scary.
I think it was Liv Morgan when she had her over the ropes, choking her out. She like started like no, it was Zelina Vega during the Rumble,
Hmm.
and she was like just screaming at the camera. I'm like, I am so scared right now.
Please no more.
I was like, please, you're gonna kill her.
Yeah. All right. I think we should move on to the next match.
Yes, yes,
Braun Strowman versus Bray Wyatt for the Universal title. Let's say our pick on three. One,
yes.
two, three. Bray Wyatt.
Bray Wyatt.
Yeah. You were a little after me, but we're on the same point.
Oh yes.
I
The
mean,
thing I'm looking for. Oh,
go
sorry.
ahead.
You want to go first?
No,
Okay.
no, no, go ahead.
Uh, we are very kind here, but it's passive aggressive. Uh, the thing I'm looking forward to is like because I've been mentioning this because you see it like because both of us have the website pulled up and it shows the picture for the match, and they keep saying Bray Wyatt. And for those that aren't familiar, the current iteration of Bray, there's two very different personalities. There's Bray, and there's the Fiend, and they keep saying Bray Wyatt, which is a very and he wrestles very very differently when he's that person versus when he's the Fiend. So
Right.
that just opens up all kinds of craziness that might happen.
And the photo they have on WWE.com has him in his Mr. Rogers sweater. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure it's just going to be him because they tend to market the Fiend like with Goldberg. Back when they
Yes.
wrestled in that one country, they had
Yes. The
they
less we
had
talk about the country, the better. But yes.
exactly. They had him like they were like, it's the Fiend. It's the Fiend.
Mm.
And for those who don't watch wrestling, or if you're like pity listening to this podcast because you are a friend of ours,
We love you. Thank you.
please don't tune out, you guys. We have they make the Fiend look like the strongest person in the world sometimes. Like I think he kicked
Hmm.
out of like 10 stomps last time he had like a universal title match
Oh yeah,
against
like
Seth
it was just
Rollins.
ridiculous.
Like I was watching
It's
it and
like if you played.
I was just so scared because I was like, okay, at first I was like, wow, that's actually scary. And then I think after the eighth, I was like, come on. Like,
It becomes comedic after a while. It's like we get that you're trying to build him up to be like the Jason Voorhees of nothing puts him down,
right.
but it's also like I don't know. It's one of those things about pro wrestling is like you can't go full can't be like that because there is that only so much suspension of disbelief.
Right, right.
But we're pointing this out because like obviously it's like they're not advertising the Fiend. And for those that don't know, the last time Bray Wyatt actually fought as well, Bray Wyatt was against the Miz, and it was a bizarre match.
And it was fast.
Yes. Well, I don't know if it'll be that quick with Braun,
No.
just because it's Braun being 6'8" and 380 pounds.
Right.
Uh, but yeah, the Fiend, like I think me and you we talked about this. Like you have like Bray Wyatt, who, like I said, when we're looking at the picture, has the Mister Rogers sweater. He comes out, he's all happy and smiles and all this. And when you hurt him, he starts to laugh, or he's like begging you to like break his arm or whatever. The Fiend is basically Satan. He just stares into your soul, beats the crap out of you. then does, the mandible claw, which is literally shoves his hand down your throat you out, and then he wins. So having Bray, and he also talks the whole time, which is going to be interesting. With there being no crowd, that means we'll hear everything he says.
Exactly. I'm just really curious to see how they do it, but I like there's not much I think I can say that I know is going to happen because I just have no idea. But
Yeah,
I
after
just
what they
think
did
that
at
Bray's gonna win.
WrestleMania,
Yeah.
yeah, after the WrestleMania match, it's like both good and bad. They show anything is possible.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think my only personal, I guess you could say, like prediction of how the match itself will go is they're going to, uh, since they're doing Bray, he's going to do a lot of talking to Braun because they have that past history of being part of the Wyatt family. And especially now that Braun is the only member of the Wyatt family still at WWE,
Mm-hmm.
um, Bray will bring all that up. I wouldn't be surprised if you see sheep masks and all sorts of stuff pop up.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only real prediction I have for the match itself. How long or short it's going to be, I have no idea.
Yeah, they're just gonna have like little like figures pop up around the ring, give him a good spook.
Yeah.
The
Bring up the
usual
past of
stuff.
like, this used to be you.
Yeah, this was your life, and now you're well exactly the same, but
Just with way more charisma.
yeah, they're allowing you to be way more yourself, which I love. But I just hope that he gets the chance to win more titles after this because I feel bad for Strowman in a weird way.
Well, I'm happy he got it, but when it comes to guys his size,
Mm-hmm.
it's the reason why, like in the past, Big Show, Undertaker, Kane, shoot, even guys like uh Sid Vicious or whatever, or Bam Bam, when you get giant men like that win the title, you run into the natural question of, besides a Brock Lesnar, how do you get it off of them?
Shoot him with a bazooka so he can kick out at 2. That's what they would do with Roman. Like he would get choked with a chain. I'm not kidding. You remember his match with Rusev, the Hell in a Cell match?
Oh my lord.
And he was
Yes.
like, Rusev's like pulling his jaw open with a chain, and then he just like picked him up and then pinned him. And I was like, okay? I was so caught off guard by that. I was like, this is insane. He literally
Yeah, I
choking
know.
him out with like a chain link, like a giant piece of metal. And Roman's like, no, not today. There's a certain point where it's like, they can't be that strong.
Oh, I know. Yeah, that's with pro wrestling just in general. Like and with the popularity of UFC now and MMA in general, it's kind of really. Because I remember someone said how like action movies have gotten better because of the rise of MMA. Because now people see like fights don't actually last that long, and people start getting bruised up and beaten up pretty quickly. So pro wrestling's had this weird, like, they're kind of in the ether of, obviously they're not going to go super realistic because that ruins the point,
Mm-hmm.
but they can't go full on like anime hokey because that would also ruin the point.
Right, you can't fly around like just with superpowers basically. It's just kind of weird, and it like takes me out of the disbelief that I've already suspended for a very long time.
Exactly. So I mean, I don't know they'll go, like I said, to the example you used. I don't think for Bray and Braun they'll go that crazy because there won't be a need to. Because I think Bray will do a thing where he kind of just, it seems his thing is he conquers you mentally first, then he just beats you down and wins.
Right, and I think that like, I don't know, Strowman has a good chance, but I don't know. I think Bray Wyatt's gonna take it, but I'm not sure how it's gonna happen. So I mean,
yeah, my only prediction is that if he doesn't take it, because there's a part in my brain that predicts that Braun defeats Bray, but then loses to the Fiend.
That would make sense. That I would buy.
Yeah,
and it would be like a close match at first, and then the Fiend would just like break Braun's
obliterate
kneecaps. Yeah,
yeah.
You can keep your belt, or you can keep your kneecaps. What's your choice?
Basically, and that's And I'm totally fine with that because it kind of it would help create more of a dichotomy with Bray, the character.
Hmm.
Oh, because as entertaining as he is, I mean, he's not two dimensional at all.
Right.
There's every time you think there's enough, there's you found all the layers, he shows like two more. But it would just add a nice little interesting wrinkle between the two personalities.
Yeah, no, I agree completely.
Yeah, it'd be
I
like with Mick Foley of you can beat Mick Foley, but then if he becomes Cactus Jack, you're in trouble.
right, and then you have to literally throw him into thumbtacks. It's just
Yes.
ridiculous. But I don't know, like I'm curious to see how that match unfolds, but one that I think you and I might be split on. I'm not 100% sure is going to be Drew McIntyre versus Seth Rollins for the WWE Championship.
Uh,
I think it's going to be Drew McIntyre, but I have like this really strange like gut feeling that it very much could be Seth because he actually has a really good like track record of winning the WWE Championship.
yeah, and that's part of the promo he gave just this last Monday. He's like, "Oh, I love it because it was such a good like he was trying to make a point, but he couldn't help but make it about himself.
Right.
Because he was trying to tell him, he's like, trust me, if you hold on to that title for too long, the people will hate you.
Yeah,
So just
that's
give it to me.
yeah.
I can take the hatred. And I was like, oh, you found a way to spin it to make yourself sound great. You
Which
clever person.
it's a great way of showing just how smart he is and how great of a performer he is, but like I don't know. Like cuz I remember when he came back at Money in the Bank 2016 and he pinned
Right.
Roman and I was like, "Oh." Like
Yeah.
I just watched it happen cuz he like caught Roman mid spear with a pedigree and I was like, "Oh, that was neat." I mean, he's still going to kick out at like 1. And then he caught him with another one and didn't kick out and I was like, "What?" Like,
That's where you're wrong,
"Hello?"
kiddo.
I just was so taken aback. I was like, "Wait, what?" So it's possible, but I think they're going to keep it on Drew because
They love him.
Drew, yeah, they love Drew and people love Drew and his his social media presence has just been absolutely through the roof too. Like when he won, like it was just ridiculous. Like the
Because
reception
isn't
was,
he the first Scottish person to win the title?
I believe so. He might be the first like international. No, that's not true.
No, no,
Yeah,
no.
outside
We've
of
had Sheamus and Becky.
that's true. Never mind.
And
Ignore what I just said. I know what I'm
no, you're
talking
good. That's
about,
why I said
guys.
Scotland. No, that's why I said Scotland, not Ireland. I don't want to cause a war.
No, yeah, I think he's the first Scottish one. Um, that's cool. I'm really
Yeah.
excited. I'm hoping they continue it on because I can't wait for the reception that he's gonna get when like crowds start coming back and he
Yes,
doesn't win
they
the
will
title to
eat it up.
silence. Right.
Yeah. I mean, and it just helps that like I'm trying to think of how to put this. Like he just looks the part.
Right. He's the
I mean,
perfect fit and he's athletic. He can do what Shawn Michaels does, but also be big and strong.
yes. I mean, when they used to when he was a heel and they would call him the Scottish Terminator, it's true. The
Yeah.
man's terrifying.
He's 6'5", 255, and he's built like marble. So
Yes.
I think he's a good choice, and I think that maybe Seth is right here right now to like number one, give him a really great match because Seth doesn't usually, and I say usually, put on a match
Yes.
that isn't well received.
It's not his fault when it's a bad one.
Right. It's usually out of his hands because I think Sting said that Seth Rollins was like the best wrestler he'd ever worked with.
Oh no, well Sting is well, since we're referencing that for those that I know we jump around with references here, but when Seth Rollins fought Sting and it got nasty because a move led to Sting getting severely injured, Sting blames himself. He does not blame Seth. So I don't hold that against of the freak accidents Seth has done. The only one I kind of slightly put on his shoulders is when he hurt Finn Balor.
Mm-hmm.
Because you shouldn't be doing a power bomb into a barricade. You're just asking for something bad to happen.
Right. And it was like an accident, but I was just like, ooh, like I remember when I was watching that, I was like, oh, that looks bad.
Yeah. Like that. And when you try to do the power bomb to Kane, it's like, don't be lifting a dude that big. Your
Although
knee's going to give out.
it was impressive that he even got him up.
I know. I mean, it's super impressive, but it's like, you shouldn't be doing that when you blew your knee out. What do you expect to happen when you're picking up a guy that much bigger than you?
Yeah, that's also fair. That's a good point.
But also with Seth being the heel, and it seems like every time he loses, he gets more delusional,
Hmm.
and I love that.
It's brilliant.
And there's a part, yeah, and there's a part of me that wants to see how far down the rabbit trail can he go.
I think this will be a big turning point for him, but how I don't know, and I'm curious to see how it plays out. I'm picking Drew, but Seth is not like it's not one of those matches where I'm watching and I'm like, all right, here we go, one,
Exactly.
two, three.
uh, if Seth were to win, I wouldn't be upset because I know that means they're going to make a program between him and Drew,
Hmm.
and that's just money.
Oh yeah, no, people are gonna love that, and hopefully it kind of pops the ratings a little bit. Just
Hmm.
showing proof that people are invested.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're invested in Drew, so that's why I'm with you.
Hmm.
They're going to let him hold the title for a little while, but Seth is the perfect guy to help. Uh, I guess not silence doubters because Drew's been putting on good matches ever since he came back. But for those people that are just like, should he be champion? Seth's gonna be like, no, watch. I'm gonna show you why he's champion and why he deserves it.
Hmm. I
So
personally think that it's gonna end with Drew victory, but hey, you never know.
I'm with you. It's one of those I would not be upset because that just means Drew's gonna fight him. That's gonna be a great feud.
Exactly. I think that we should talk about. We have two more matches that we need to cover.
Yes.
Let's see. It is the SmackDown Women's Championship, Bailey versus Tamina. Bailey.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
They're not giving that to Tamina.
Right. I
Don't get me
think
wrong.
that the match will be better than people are expecting, though.
Tamina's gotten better. Honestly, she has.
She has, and they haven't really used her to the full extent that I think they could have used her before, because she's
Well,
always kind of had this like intimidating aura to her, and she's a good wrestler. I'm just curious to see, how this goes, because this is her first like one-on-one match in a really long time.
yeah, and just I think, and this is obviously the biggest match she's had in terms of like high profile.
Hmm.
So, but like I said, she's improved a lot. I know when she was part of like the team with Sasha and Naomi.
Team Bad.
Uh, yes, uh, she was very green. Like she was basically just there to super kick people, and that's it.
Hmm.
Uh, but she's gotten a lot better since, and I'm kind of glad they're letting her get her own screen time because I mean,
It's something different too.
yeah, because I mean, she's a big, well, it's a powerhouse, or like I guess the term they use with the guys is like Haas, but she has that status in a very different way
Hmm.
because obviously, I mean, being the daughter of Superfly, so she can go at the top rope and fly, which is terrifying at someone her size that she can do it, and she's actually gotten a lot better at that too. Uh, so it's definitely like I said, Bailey's obviously going to win.
Hmm.
Honestly, I'm still surprised she has the title.
Yeah, I think that they're gonna
Uh,
hold out for like a Sasha feud for SummerSlam.
which if that's what this builds towards, great.
Yeah,
So,
I'm looking
I mean,
forward to it.
yeah, turn Sasha face and then just have her become a big deal again.
Hmm. But either way,
But
I think like we can keep an eye out for Tamina. Hopefully, it goes really well. I don't want a match to like not be well received, and
of
I think
course,
that people are kind of expecting this one to be like an in between one, and I hope that it kind of proves people wrong. I think that'd be
yeah,
cool.
I hope it's one of those where like because they tell you sometimes it's almost you can almost gain more from losing a match than winning if
Hmm.
it's like put together correctly.
Ric
And for
Flair.
Tamina, this could very easily be that for.
Yeah, and I fingers crossed it goes well, and I'm curious to see where they go with it. Maybe Sasha interferes. That would be interesting. Add a little layer to the feud.
Yes, yes. Especially if she were to try to help, but it screws up, and
Hmm.
almost cost Bailey the championship.
Right, right,
Yeah, so it'll be interesting. Like I said, there's not much more to add because it's very obvious who's going to win.
right. But I just hope it turns out well. Either way, let's move on to our final match
Yes,
that we're looking
it's
at,
the
and that
tag
is
team championship fatal four way.
yep for the SmackDown Tag Team belts. All right, I actually I'm not dead set on this one.
Yeah, this is probably the most up in the air out of the entire card.
I want to say Miz and Morrison, honestly.
Yeah, because the New Day is the New Day. They can do whatever they want and they'll be fine.
Right.
Uh,
They're always going to be loved. Like no matter like I mean unless they really really start to go downhill, which they won't because they're all too good. I
yeah,
personally think that they have a really really good chance of winning, but I feel like this is the time that another team's going to come up. I don't think it's going to be the Forgotten Sons, even though they won on Raw the other night, which was really impressive.
yes.
They looked really good doing that too. I believe Steve Cutler, one of the members, is also a former. He's either a Marine or he's in the Army.
Oh, that's right. They
Um,
mentioned that. Yeah,
yeah, and he's legitimately tough. Like I remember seeing some of his matches when he was first starting out in NXT, and I'm curious to see where they go with that, especially since they gave them such a big win. It kind of adds an interesting layer. Like they may take the pin, which would be kind of a bummer, but
yeah. Well, I think Lucha House Party is going to take the pin. That's why they're there.
yeah, that's true. But I like them. I like watching them wrestle.
Oh, they're great.
Yeah, they just kind of like when they get put in there, you're like, oh, they're gonna be there for like spots, like they're
Yeah,
really good, but I feel like they're gonna get used primarily for that reason, and nothing wrong with that. But
yeah. I mean, there's a respect to it, and obviously they seem to be having a good time. Otherwise, I'm sure they would have left by now.
how how crazy would it be if they just go on like an absolute tear, lay the smackdown on everyone, and then like pin them by putting their foot on Big E or something?
That would
They just turn into monsters.
I I would honestly just be staring at the TV with like this weird like half smile, half frown of like, what am I staring at?
That would be
I wouldn't know whether to be happy or very upset.
just guys. I'm uncomfortable.
That would be the only way to describe it.
That would be I it's not gonna happen, but I'd love
No.
to see it. I'd love to see that. But like I think that like one of the big choices is gonna be Miz and Morrison. And if not, it might be the beginning of like cracks starting to show in their relationship, especially with like Miz not being able to be at WrestleMania. I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm
Well,
really not sure.
yeah, they hinted at it because they made promos about that where they looked at Morrison going, "Well, you did all the work,"
Hmm.
and I think the week Miz wrestled, didn't they? I could be misremembering. I think they lost.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, so when Morrison wrestles, they win. When Miz wrestles, they lose. That just naturally, I mean, that will depend on if they want to do a slow burn or not.
Hmm.
Uh, Especially because the other day I just was watching stuff on the network when they talked about how they had the Batista Triple H feud and they wanted to hot shot that and get it done in like a month. And they're like, no, let's drag this out. So by the time we actually have the match, people are begging for it.
Right.
That could be what they do with Miz and Morrison.
Hmm.
Because after WrestleMania, if anyone who had forgotten how good Morrison is
He's so good.
got reminded.
I watched his elimination chamber match today actually with him and I think it was John Cena. It was for WrestleMania 27, and it
Oh yes,
was with R-Truth, Wade Barrett, Sheamus, Randy Orton, CM Punk.
okay.
I think that's
I
everyone.
think that's it. It's like 8 people or
Yeah,
six.
yeah. It was really good though. It was especially him. Like everything he does is just he looks younger, and he's like 40 years old.
Yeah, it's weird. And I think it was on the New Day podcast. Kofi has said that everyone's like with the Royal Rumble or ladder matches, like, oh, so what's going to be the Kofi spot? Kofi has straight up admitted, he goes, no, those are the Morrison spots. I'm just a copycat.
Yeah.
He's the originator.
I remember he's been high flying like since he first like came in. Like obviously I wasn't really watching at that time because it was like a couple years before my time. But
Mhm.
when I went back and watched a lot of the matches, especially with him, I was just blown away because I was like, oh, he kind of looks like a oh my gosh. Like
Yes.
like what did you
And that's
just
how it is.
do?
It's like, here's this. I mean, because you see him at first and you're like, okay, he's this cocky and he's really good at playing that to the point of being delusional.
Right.
And then you're just like, oh, but he's wrestling all right. And then you just see him do this crazy like monkey flip. He lands perfectly on the barricade. He walks like he's running across the top rope, and you're just like, "What am I looking at?"
He'd be a great like I'd like to see him as a heel. Like obviously not a monster heel, like he's not enormous, but he would be like a great like heel in the vein of Seth Rollins, I think, where it's kind of like
Yeah,
he can put his money like where his mouth is, but he also is like not afraid to be like, yeah, I'm just gonna go. I don't have to beat you up. I can just leave.
Yeah, it's like I can outbeat you through stamina.
Right, but he still has kind of like the thing about that is that he has babyface moves.
I know you're not gonna boo a guy that does cool stuff.
Right, like he'll flip, he'll do like a quadruple flip, and people are like, "Oh,
Yeah,
that
you
was
ain't gonna
that
boo
was
that.
cool." Like, what am I gonna say? That sucked because it didn't.
Yeah, I mean it's why Seth Rollins had to take away some of his flashier moves because you're gonna cheer him if he does those.
Right. Well, that was the problem I think that some people had with Kevin Owens back when he was like a heel for the longest time, was that he would
Yeah,
do like the pop up power bomb and the cannonball and like all these crazy moves, and I was like, those are like good guy moves. Like,
it's true. Like the only way that you got him to boo him was when he almost murdered Chris Jericho.
right, and that took a long time to build to.
Exactly. So Morrison's in the same boat, and considering this is a return, so it's not like he has to establish himself.
Hmm.
So I'm okay with him. And Miz is just such a good heel. So if they were to break up, Miz would clearly be the heel in that case.
I would go so far as to say Miz is the best heel in WWE.
Like right now, yes, because he has just for nothing else been consistent.
At least over the last 10 years, too.
Oh yeah, like you could always count on him to just be a smarmy words I'm not going to use on this podcast. Just like that is best personified when SmackDown used to have this thing called Talking Smack. And it's where wrestlers, after an episode of SmackDown was over, they could go talk about their matches. And Daniel Bryan, who was injured at the time, so he couldn't wrestle, he started making fun of Miz, going, "Oh, you're too safe. That's why no one likes to watch your matches. You're boring." And Miz goes off
Hmm.
and just goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm wrestling in front of millions of people while you're okay potentially ending your career because you want to wrestle at a bingo hall," and just on and until Daniel legitimately gets angry and walks off.
Well, because I can't confirm this, but I think Talking Smack was unscripted.
Yes, it was. Well, I'm sure there's bullet points, but
Hmm.
I think when it comes to like, especially if you had guys you could trust, like Miz and Daniel Bryan, they just said, "Hey, go."
Yeah, well, same with Corbin too, because I remember like people kind of give him a hard time about his mic skills, but when he was on Talking Smack, he seemed so natural and so much more comfortable. And I was
Hmm.
like, "There's no way this is scripted." Like,
Oh, of course.
he's
Yeah,
so
like
good at it.
even Eric Rowan like was busting out good promos,
I know. I
and
miss Talking Smack.
we all miss Talking Smack, but it was like one viral hit after another.
Hmm.
But to wrap, like I said, I bring this up. We're bringing this up because the New Day doesn't need the tag titles. They're above it. The
Hmm.
only reason they keep winning it is because they're obviously going to get the record for the most reigns ever.
And they should. They deserve it.
Absolutely. They deserve it 100,000,000%.
I'm so
I
excited for
wouldn't
them.
be yes. I just hope that Xavier can come back by the time they break the record so he can be there with them.
That would be great.
Uh,
Well, because he did he blow out his ACL or his MCL?
no, he blew out his Achilles.
Okay, all right. Everyone who's listening to this podcast, don't always take my word as fact because sometimes I don't have the right answer.
No, it's all good. Like that's gonna be part of our charm with this podcast
I,
is,
I've been wrong at least 5 times over the last like 30 minutes.
and
That's
I'm
a
sure I've
bad
been wrong
percentage.
just as many. It's all good.
We're trying our best, okay?
Yeah. But New Day is above the titles. Lucha's not gonna win it. They're just like we said, they're just there for all the fun spots.
Yeah, they'll be great,
Forgotten
but
Sons might win it just because that would be quite the statement.
mhm.
But at the same time, I could, especially because there's three of them, I could see it to where they just get angry and try to decimate everybody and then just not win. Uh, Miz and Morrison kind of need the title, especially since they're, at least at the moment, strongly hinting at a breakup.
Yeah, I hope they don't, but I'd love to see it. Maybe like Morrison goes on to win a WWE title sometime. That's a
I
long
heard before he,
shot.
I heard before he left to go to Lucha Underground, they kind of wanted him to, but then he just kind of bailed.
Yeah, well, at that point, I think that they were kind of like he wasn't really getting as much airtime as he wanted / deserved, and he's like, well, I'm gonna go become Johnny Mundo, which the best thing to ever happen to him.
Oh yeah, no, it's why they treat him so well now, because
Right.
he went out and showed, need you guys to become a big star, and they're like, oh, he's legitimately amazing no matter where he goes.
Right, he's fantastic. I'm just so excited. I hope that would be an interesting wrinkle in 2020 is like this first half of this year has just been filled with I don't even know how to find an adjective to describe the first half of this year. But if the second half is filled with John Morrison winning a WWE title, like he wins it and then Wade Barrett comes back, dude, I'd be a mess. I'd be sobbing in the best possible way. I miss Wade Barrett.
Oh, I do too. It's like, okay, just give us a moment to fantasy book real fast. Um, I would honestly pass that. You would have to come send police to get me out of my apartment because I would just be in a coma if if Morrison goes and wins the title, and then like the next night on Raw, he just like does an open challenge. You just hear, "I'm afraid I've got some bad news."
I'd scream like a little girl.
I would just be in a coma, be like, "Send help."
I would lose my mind, and I was there when Edge came back after 9 years.
Yeah.
Like, it was crazy, dude.
Oh man. But like so there's us fantasy booking real fast. Ultimately, it's between the Forgotten Sons and Miz and Morrison. I do think Miz and Morrison would be the ones to win, but at the same time, if the New Day were to retain, that would also make total sense.
I'm gonna say for my choices, I'm gonna say Miz and Morrison, but
I'm gonna go with that too, because that's almost it's like that's kind of the sexier pick.
the sexier pick. I don't think we've had that one on here yet.
Well,
I
to me, because it's just there's more like you can do with that of like, do you tease the breakup more, or do you just have them continue to be great heels?
had both.
I know that's what I'm saying. There's more like the New Day is going to continue to be the New Day.
Mhm.
The Forgotten Sons are brand new, so they still got to like establish their gimmick
I
and their whole shtick.
Yeah, I feel like if we're trying to get like really like imaginative, like the Forgotten Sons may win, but I think the built-in story here is like Lucha House Party might lose, unfortunately. But
Yes.
I think that the Forgotten Sons will cost the win to the New Day, and then Miz and Morrison will capitalize on that because that's been like their gimmick for the longest time when they're working together.
I'm okay with that because yeah, because then Miz and Morrison can go have a feud for the titles with whomever, whether it's Lucha House Party or whomever.
Hmm.
Uh, and then New Day and Forgotten Sons can just have their own program that doesn't have a title on the line.
Exactly, and I think that'd be exciting because then that's a good way to put them over and kind of just show how strong they are.
Oh yeah, and then it just naturally because you got the Forgotten Sons go against the New Day. Potentially, I mean, I think the right move would be have them win because then it sets up the natural next feud for them, which would be the Usos.
Mhm. Oh, that'd be so good.
Exactly, because like since the New Day and the Usos are basically tied at the hip at this point,
Hmm.
uh, so yeah, us kind of going on this rabbit trail with this match, it does seem like Miz and Morrison makes the most sense just because of what can come out of it.
Right. I think it'll be good, but I mean that's my pick. Sorry, excuse me. I That's my pick for the week, and I'm excited about it. I'm looking forward to it. But like, yeah, I mean, if you guys are into wrestling, let us know what you think about this. What your choices are, and if you're not into wrestling at all, and again, you're just listening because you like listening to us, that's also excellent. And maybe you'll find that you have an interest in wrestling. You never know. But either way, thank you guys for listening to today. We're really excited to be here for a second episode. It's a lot of fun, and Caleb and I are really enjoying this. We'll have this out hopefully sooner rather than later for the Money in the Bank.
At least before the
Yes.
pay-per-view, if nothing else.
Exactly. And if all of our guesses are wrong and we're just terrible at this, you guys can go back and listen and just go, these dudes suck.
Oh yeah, don't be afraid to poke fun at me. I am not above being made fun of for bad picks. I've been watching wrestling long enough that I'll take the jokes and throw them back.
I can take it.
Yeah, exactly.
But either way, thank you guys so much, and we'll be releasing a new episode soon. We can't tell you what exactly it's going to be, but we think it'll be a real treat. So thank you guys so much, and we look forward to having a new episode for you guys soon.
See you later, guys.
Have a good one.